You check your savings account and see $23,847 staring back at you. And instead of feeling proud or excited, you feel anxious because for the first time in your life, you actually have real money saved up and you have absolutely no idea what you're supposed to do with it. You've read the articles, you've watched the videos. Half of them say invest everything. The other half say keep it in cash. And you've been sitting on this money for 4 months doing absolutely nothing while it loses value to inflation every single day. Here's the thing though, and this is going to sound weird. Being stuck at $20,000 is actually way harder than being stuck at $2,000 because when you're broke, at least you know what to do. Make more money, spend less, save everything you can. But at $20,000, you're in this bizarre financial no man's land where every decision suddenly feels massive and you're terrified of screwing it up. My name is Billy, and I spend way too much time thinking about the exact dollar amount where people's entire financial psychology changes. If you're someone who's saved up more money than you've ever had in your life, but you're completely paralyzed about what to do next, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, I'm going to explain why $20,000 is the single most dangerous financial threshold most people will ever cross, why it's the exact point where you either set yourself up for real wealth or stay stuck in the middle class forever, and the exact strategy you need to implement in the next 2 weeks, not 6 months, not eventually, but right now, to make sure you don't waste what might be the most important money you'll ever have. So let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain right now. You've got 20 grand, and that number is doing something really weird to your decision making. According to research from the Federal Reserve's 2026 survey of consumer finances, the median American household has about $8,200 in liquid savings. The mean is way higher, around $42,000, but that's because Jeff Bezos and his friends skew the average. For most actual people, 8 grand. So when you hit $20,000, you're already doing better than roughly 65% of Americans. You should feel good about that. But here's what most people don't realize. That achievement is exactly what's causing your paralysis. It's called threshold anxiety, and it kicks in at specific dollar amounts. It doesn't happen at $5,000. It doesn't really happen at $10,000, but right around $20,000, it hits like a truck. Here's why. When you had $5,000, losing $1,000 in a bad investment would have sucked, but you could recover in a few months. When you have $20,000, losing $4,000, which is the same 20% loss, feels catastrophic. It's rent for months. It's a used car. It's something that took you maybe a year to save. So you freeze. You do nothing. You leave it all sitting in a savings account earning 4.0% interest in April 2026, which sounds pretty good until you realize that after a 22% federal tax bracket and maybe 5% state taxes, you're netting about 2.9%. And with inflation running around 2.7%, your real return is like 0.2%. You're basically treading water while convincing yourself you're being responsible. Here's the brutal truth. $20,000 sitting in a savings account doing nothing is not safety. It's fear masquerading as prudence. Let me show you the actual math on what this paralysis costs you, because this is where it gets really interesting. Let's say you're 29 years old and you just hit $20,000. You've got 2 paths in front of you. Path A, the I'm being safe path. You keep all $20,000 in a high yield savings account earning 4.0%. You keep adding $500 a month because you're disciplined. After taxes at a 27% combined rate, you're netting about 2.92% annually. In 5 years, you'll have about $51,400. In 10 years, you'll have about $88,200. By the time you're 59 and thinking about retirement, you'll have about $297,000. That's not nothing. That's actually really good compared to most people. You should be proud of that level of discipline. Path B, the I understand how money actually works path. You keep $12,000 in savings as an emergency fund. That's about 4 to 5 months of expenses for most people. You take the other $8,000 and put it into a boring S&P 500 index fund. Then every month you add that same $500, but you split it. $150 goes to topping up your emergency fund until it hits 6 months of expenses, then goes into a high yield savings account. $350 goes to investments. Here's what happens. Your investments average about 10% annually, which is roughly the historical average for the S&P 500. Some years you'll make 25%. Some years you'll lose 18%. but over time, about 10%. In 5 years, your emergency fund is at $18,000 and your investments are at about $36,000. Total, $54,000. In 10 years, your emergency fund is maxed at $24,000 and your investments are at about $89,000. Total, $113,000. By the time you're 59, your emergency fund is still at $24,000. You don't need more than that. And your investments are at $638,000. Total, $662,000. Wait, let me say that again. Same exact monthly savings, same exact discipline, but you end up with $365,000 more by age 59. That's not a new car. That's not a nice vacation. That's the difference between retiring comfortably and working into your 70s. That's the difference between I can help my kids with college and I can barely help myself. And the decision that created that $365,000 difference, it happened at $20,000 when you were 29, when you chose to understand that emergency funds and investments serve different purposes. Now, you might be thinking, but Billy, what if I invest that money and then I have an emergency? Look, this is the number one thing that keeps people stuck, and I get it, but here's what most people don't realize. You're thinking about emergency funds completely wrong. The purpose of an emergency fund is not to have access to money. You'll always have access to money. If you invest $10,000 and need it tomorrow, you can sell it tomorrow. It'll be in your bank account in 3 business days. That's still an emergency fund. The real purpose of an emergency fund is to have access to money that isn't subject to market volatility. That's it. That's the only difference. Here's the framework that actually works. You need 3 to 6 months of essential expenses in true cash, not total expenses, essential expenses, not $4,500 a month for everything, including subscriptions and dining out. More like $3,000 for rent, food, utilities, insurance, and minimum debt payments. For most people watching this, that's somewhere between $9,000 and $18,000. Let's call it $12,000 to make the math easy. Once you have that $12,000, every additional dollar in savings should be working harder for you. Not in crypto, not in individual stocks, not in your buddy's startup, in boring, diversified index funds that have averaged 10% for the past century. But here's where people mess up. They think, well, what if I need more than 6 months of expenses? What if I lose my job and can't find another one for a year? If you can't find any job, not your dream job, but any job for a full year, you've got way bigger problems than your emergency fund. You're either in a severe recession where you should be buying stocks hand over fist anyway, or you're being unrealistically picky about employment. The real risk isn't running out of emergency money. The real risk is spending your entire life preparing for an emergency that never comes while missing out on decades of compound growth. Here's something fascinating about human psychology that explains why most people don't do this. There's a concept in behavioral economics called mental accounting. Basically, we treat money differently based on where it's located. Even though money is fungible, a dollar in your checking account spends the same as a dollar in your savings account or your investment account. But your brain doesn't see it that way. Your brain sees savings account money as safe money, money you can't lose, money that's really yours. And it sees investment money as risky money, money you might lose, money that doesn't quite feel real yet. This is why people will keep $30,000 in a savings account, earning basically nothing while the market averages 10% right in front of them. It's not stupidity, it's psychology. But here's what changes everything. Once you reframe the split, the psychology shifts entirely. Instead of thinking, I'm taking money out of savings to invest, think I'm diversifying my emergency fund. Some of it is in cash for immediate access. Some of it is in investments for better returns. Both serve the same purpose, protecting you from financial catastrophe. When you frame it that way, investing doesn't feel risky anymore. It feels like a smart hedge. Because it is. Here's another way to think about it. Let's say you had $20,000 and I offered you 2 options. Option 1, put it all in one type of account earning 3% after taxes. Option 2, split it between 2 types of accounts, one earning 3% and one earning 10%, with the understanding that you can access both of them if you really need to, but one takes 3 days longer to access. Obviously, you'd choose option 2. Obviously, but for some reason, when we call option 1 being safe with your savings and option 2 risky investing, people choose option 1 all the time. It's the same decision. The framing is just different. All right, let's talk about something that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. The opportunity cost of safety. As of April 2026, the average new car costs about $48,000. The average interest rate on a car loan is around 7.3%. Most people finance for 60 months. So let's say you're 28, you've got $20,000 saved, and you decide to buy a $25,000 used car in cash because it's smart to avoid debt. You hand over the cash, you drive off feeling responsible, you've got $5,000 left in savings and no car payment. Nice, but here's what you actually just did. You took $20,000 that could have been earning 10% annually in the market, and you converted it into a depreciating asset that loses about 15% of its value per year. Over the next 5 years, that car is worth maybe $12,000. You lost $13,000 in value. If you had instead put $5,000 down, financed $20,000 at 7.3%, and invested your $15,000 at 10%, here's what happens. Your car payment is about $400 a month. Over 5 years, you pay about $24,000 total for the car, including interest. After 5 years, the car is still worth about $12,000. So your net cost was $12,000, but your $15,000 investment, it's now worth about $24,000. Net result, you spent the same $12,000 on the car, but you also have $24,000 in investments. You're $24,000 richer by financing instead of paying cash. Now, some of you are freaking out right now because I just told you to take on debt, and everything you've ever heard says debt is bad. Look, high interest debt is bad. Credit card debt at 24%, kill it. But strategic debt at 7.3% when you can reliably earn 10%. That's not bad. That's arbitrage. That's what rich people do every single day. The difference between middle class and wealthy isn't that wealthy people avoid all debt. It's that they understand the difference between good debt and bad debt, and they use their cash for things that grow instead of things that shrink. Okay, so let's make this concrete. You've got $20,000. Here's the exact play-by-play strategy. Step 1, calculate your real emergency fund need. Take your essential monthly expenses, rent, utilities, minimum debt payments, food, insurance, and multiply by 4. Not 6, not 12, 4. 4 months is enough time to find another job in almost any market. It's enough time to handle most medical emergencies with insurance. It's enough time to deal with most catastrophic situations. For most people, this is between $8,000 and $16,000. Let's say it's $12,000 for you. Step 2, park that amount in the best savings account you can find. As of April 2026, you should be getting at least 3.8% on a high-yield savings account. Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally Bank, American Express Savings, doesn't really matter which one. Just make sure you're getting close to 4%. This money does not move. This is not investment money. This is my life fell apart money. Put it there and forget about it. Step 3, take everything above your emergency fund and split it 70-30. You've got $8,000 above your emergency fund, 70%, $5,600, goes into a taxable brokerage account invested in a total market index fund, Vanguard Total Stock Market, VTI, Fidelity Total Market, FSKAX, Schwab Total Stock Market, SWTSX. Pick one. It doesn't matter which. 30%, $2,400, goes into a Roth IRA, also invested in a total market index fund. Why the split? Because Roth IRAs have contribution limits, $7,000 for 2026, and once you max it out, you can't add more that year, so you need both. The Roth grows tax-free forever, which is incredible. The brokerage account gives you unlimited contribution room and flexibility. Step 4, automate everything. Set up automatic monthly transfers. Every paycheck, X dollars goes to your emergency fund until it hits your target. Then that same X dollars switches to investments. I recommend splitting your monthly savings 60-40. If you're saving $500 a month, $300 goes to your taxable brokerage and $200 goes to your Roth IRA until you hit the annual limit. Don't try to time the market. Don't wait for dips. Don't check the news before you invest. Just buy the same day every month automatically. This removes emotion from the equation, which is the biggest factor in investment success. Step 5, set a quarterly review, not a daily check. This is crucial. Check your accounts once every 3 months, not once a day, not once a week, once a quarter. Looking at your investments constantly will make you panic during downturns and get overconfident during bull markets. Both will make you do stupid things. Quarterly reviews give you enough information to stay informed without enough exposure to make emotional decisions. Let me address the pushback I know some of you have right now. But Billy, what about paying off my debt first? Great question. Here's the frameworks. If your debt is above 6% interest, Kill it before you invest anything beyond your minimum emergency fund. If it's below 6%, keep paying minimums and invest the difference. Why 6%? Because historically, the stock market returns about 10% after accounting for taxes on your investments and the fact that debt interest is guaranteed while market returns aren't. 6% is roughly the break-even point. Credit card at 21%, pay it off. Student loan at 4.5%, keep paying minimums and invest. Car loan at 7%. Your call, it's close enough that psychology matters more than math. But what if the market crashes right after I invest? Then you keep investing. If you're under 50, a market crash is the best thing that could happen to you. You get to buy stocks on sale for years. The people who got rich off the 2008 crash weren't the ones who avoided it. They were the ones who kept buying while everyone else panicked. The people who lost money were the ones who sold at the bottom. You're not investing money you need next year. You're investing money you need in 30 years. What happens next year doesn't matter. But I don't know anything about investing. Shouldn't I learn more first? You learn by doing. I'm not telling you to pick individual stocks or trade options or invest in crypto. I'm telling you to put money in an index fund that owns thousands of companies and hold it for decades. That requires about as much expertise as setting up a savings account. You can do this from your phone in 20 minutes. The learning comes from experience, not from reading about it for 5 years while your money loses value to inflation. Here's what nobody tells you about crossing the $20,000 threshold with a real strategy. Your entire psychology changes, and that psychology is worth more than the money itself. Let me give you a real example. Let's say you're 30 years old, you implement this strategy with $20,000, and you commit to investing $500 a month. Month 6, your emergency fund is solid at $12,000. Your investments are at about $6,500. Your initial $5,600 plus 6 months of contributions plus some growth. Total net worth, $18,500. Wait, you lost money? No, you had $20,000 in cash before, and now you have $18,500 total. But you also spent money over those 6 months. The point is you're building a system, not just a number. Month 12. Emergency fund still at $12,000. Investments at about $14,000. Total $26,000. Now you're actually $6,000 richer than when you started, and you're building momentum. Month 24. Emergency fund at $12,000. Investments at about $30,000. Total $42,000. You've more than doubled your net worth in 2 years. But here's what's really happening. You're not the same person anymore. 2 years ago, you stressed about money constantly. Now, you check your investment account once a quarter and basically forget about it otherwise. Money isn't this constant anxiety anymore. It's just handled. You get a $2,000 bonus at work. 2 years ago, that would have been a vacation or new furniture. Now, straight into investments without even thinking about it, because you're not budgeting anymore. You're building. This is what financial momentum looks like. And it only happens when you cross a certain threshold with a real strategy. For most people, that threshold is right around $20,000. Look, here's what this whole video is actually about. $20,000 isn't the goal. It's not even close to enough money to retire on or be truly wealthy, but it's the exact amount where you stop being someone who saves and become someone who builds wealth. And that identity shift is worth more than the money itself. Because here's the thing, the habits you build at $20,000 are the same habits you'll use at $200,000 and $2 million. The discipline to keep money in investments during a downturn, the patience to let compound growth work, the wisdom to separate emergency funds from investment funds, the confidence to ignore financial noise and stick to a simple plan. You either learn those habits now or you never learn them. I've seen people with $200,000 in savings who are still paralyzed, still keeping everything in cash, still terrified of making a move, because they never learned the lessons that $20,000 teaches you. They just kept saving without building, and now they're 50 years old with a lot of money, but no momentum and no time left to really build wealth. Don't be that person. All right, here's what I want you to do in the next 48 hours. Not next month, not when you feel ready, in the next 48 hours. If you have $20,000 or close to it, calculate your 4-month emergency fund, open a brokerage account if you don't have one, Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, doesn't matter, and move everything above your emergency fund into a total market index fund. If you're not at $20,000 yet, calculate exactly how much you're saving per month and what date you'll hit $20,000. Put it in your calendar and commit right now to implementing this strategy the week you hit that number. The difference between people who build real wealth and people who just save money isn't intelligence. It's not luck. It's not income. It's decision speed at critical thresholds. You're at a critical threshold right now. Make the decision. If this video gave you clarity on what to do next, smash that subscribe button because we go deep on this stuff every week. Hit the like button if you're actually going to implement this, and drop a comment with your current savings number and your target emergency fund amount. I read every single comment and I want to see you commit publicly. My name is Billy. Stop letting fear disguise itself as responsibility. I'll see you in the next one.